Victoria Dioh here again. So today is a slightly different topic. Well, maybe it's not, I don't know. I want to talk about racism. Yeah, I'm going to go there. So my experience of racism has been very different to a lot of people's. So the first thing is that I spent my awareness years, so from the age of 6 to 18 in Cameroon in West Africa. And there, pretty much everybody's Black, majority anyway. And you had a few white people who came there as expats to work, but overall, we were all Black. So we didn't really experience racism in my formative years. It was pretty much where, in my opinion, a lot of the Black people would maybe create allowances for the white people, which I completely disagreed with, but otherwise it was quite normal. So coming here and hearing about racism, or coming back to England and hearing about racism, was a learning curve for me because I'd never heard of racism. I didn't know what that actually looked like. With the goings-ons at the moment, where there are riots in the UK, and there's been other incidents worldwide where we've been subjected, I guess, to a number of conversations or a number of activities that have resulted in the same conversation. It's made me wonder. It really has. It's made me really think, when was the first time I encountered what somebody may call racism? Now, I'm going to call it colorism because I strongly want to believe that the antagonist at the time didn't know any better. But I remember being at school, and it was nursery school for sure, and a child or a number of children were calling me Blackie. And I went home and told my mom, and typical mama said, my mom said, well, if they call you Blackie, next time they do, call them Pinky. So I did. And they ran and went and told the teacher. And then the teacher called my mom in, and my mom was like, but she's only responding to what you're not taking action about, and calling her Blackie. So that was my first experience. Did it mark me in any way? No, it didn't. By the time I came back to the UK, I I had a vision, and thanks to my parents, I had a vision of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to carve out my life. So there was nobody really who was going to tell me otherwise. But I remember a lot of friends of mine who had had different experiences, Jamaicans and, people from different continents who had struggled with feeling suppressed. I haven't had that, which is why if you follow me, you'll rarely hear me talk about racism. You'll probably hear me have an opinion. It's not that I don't have an opinion, is that I sometimes struggle to be able to pinpoint in my life where I've experienced it. But I see it happening in other people. So, for example, the whole George Floyd incident, for me, that was huge. That was something that you could see in broad daylight, and nothing was being done. And that completely broke my heart. And I spoke about that a lot. And if you didn't know me at the time, I cut ties with a lot of people because of that. Just because I realized that we were not singing from the same hymn sheets. And I wasn't prepared to have people in my life who differed in their opinion about that, because it was quite clear cut. Now we have the riots. And I remember watching the video on social media in Hare Hills in Leeds. Now, just in case you don't know, I was born in Leeds, half bred in Leeds. So this is my hometown. And watching an area that I know very well going up in flames and having all these riots, again, broke my heart, causing a huge amount of separation, you know, causing huge amounts of them and us. It reminds me of lockdown, you know, who got vaccinated, who didn't get vaccinated, another reason to create separation. And now we're back in the racism court. And then I see as it starts to spill into different towns. And I was at dinner last night speaking to a friend, and it was interesting that we almost took the notion that, well, it's not happening around us, so we're okay. But I was very mindful yesterday as I walked through London that it could start at any time. That all it took was one person to scream something in the public or to throw a stone, and you'd get other people joining in and creating a riot right in front of us. And the fact that I know that little can be done about it sent shivers down my spine. Then I think of my nieces and my nephew, especially my nephew, who is a gorgeous Black young lad and who could be seen and targeted because of the color of his skin or because of the perception of what his ancestors may or may not have done. I was also very aware that as I was going home last night on the tube, that again, all it took was one person or a group of people to create that chaos in a public place, and there'd be a riot. And for the first time, probably ever, and I've done some, I'm not going to say crazy things, but I've got home late at night and never ever worried about my safety. But last night, as I got off the bus to just walk less than 2 minutes to my house, I got to thinking, what if somebody started a riot right here? I thought about my car. I started thinking about the expense of the car if anything happened. I thought of my safety, and I prayed to God that we'd be safe. I prayed to God that my siblings and I and friends would wake up safe. I don't talk about racism a lot because I don't think I've experienced it a lot. If I have experienced it, I've been completely oblivious to it because I don't believe that I've been hindered by the color of my skin. I believe that if I've not achieved something, it's down to me. I believe that if I have achieved something, it's been down to me. So I can't speak for a lot of people's experience on racism. But what I will say is this, is that I'm not going to blindly sit here and say we're all one, but we are all one. I'm not going to blindly sit here and say that just because I haven't directly experienced racism, or I've been oblivious to it, doesn't mean that it doesn't affect me, because there's something called generational trauma. And even if I haven't experienced that racism, it hits and connects to a golden thread that I always talk about in business, that golden thread that literally aligns you to the core of who you are. It still triggers that. And whether I like it or not, it will have an impact into how I think and how I navigate my way. I'm going up north next week, and I'm already hoping that where I'm going is safe. Because the people that are creating the riots, they're angry. They're not going to be in a space to listen, sit down quietly and pay attention. I've seen a lot of the leaders, especially from the Muslim community, asking for peace, asking, for calm conversation. And I don't believe that the people creating the riots are in that space. They're in a space of distraction. They're in a space of anger. But here's my message to you. If you listen to this and you know anybody who's creating the riots, let them know that they're being distracted. Let them know that if they believe that they're here for a bigger reason, that this is a distraction that's moving them away from making relevant change. It's incredible how distracted we can become from our life's purpose. There was a lady who came on TikTok. I think she's called Black Karen. I think that's her name. And she went on a rant. I'm nowhere as eloquent as she is. She went on a rant and she was talking about the history of Black people coming into the UK. And she implored for anybody who didn't understand the history of the UK to go back and pay attention and understand that other nationalities being in the UK was as a result of us being needed rather than us needing a place to be. When you look at the jobs that pay well, when you look at a lot of the jobs that pay well, a lot of the jobs where there's a lot of responsibility, there's a lot of Black people there, or there's a lot of different races there. And I promise you this, as somebody who has spent two decades hiring and firing people in positions within corporate and also within business, I can assure you, I do not follow positive discrimination. I don't hire because of your color. I hire because of your ability to do the job. A lot of the people who are out there saying that we're taking your jobs, a lot of those people have jobs that I, for one, wouldn't want. I'm too educated for that. And I'm not just talking about going to university. I'm talking about being educated enough to know exactly what I want and to know that the job that you have, that's not the job I'm looking for. So if I was going to come and steal a job, that wouldn't be the job I'd come and steal. So to people who are out there who are rioting, I'm not here to insult you. I'm not here to try and see who's right or wrong. I'm asking you, what is it that you're really looking to achieve? And is this the right way to be? I'm also not imploring you who doesn't see this as a thing to join in. I don't need you to join in. But this is for me to record this for myself. And for those that are in my community that are wondering, well, I wonder what Vic's take is on it. My take is we all deserve to be safe. My take is together we can do so much more. My take is it's not just about what's happening now, it's what's happened before and how we can make that better. And also, don't do something to others that you wouldn't want to be done unto you. I can promise you this. Life is all about karma. What goes around comes around. You may not even attach it to somebody that you love, whether it's someone 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line. You may say, well, I'm not going to be there to see it. I promise you that golden thread that I talk about, that even though I wasn't in the presence of a lot of the discrimination that went on, I still feel it. Your bloodline will feel it too. Your bloodline can't help but feel it because that's what karma's all about. But it takes conversation. It takes interaction. It takes awareness. It takes for us not to dismiss that things are not right and that there is that there is a form of conflict happening. It takes for us to not join in and laugh, even if it seems funny. It takes for us to have compassion about what's going on. And we shouldn't have to wait for someone to be killed for us then to say, hey, this isn't right. I remember so many of us jumped on the bandwagon when George Floyd died. But there's been other incidents as well, and other incidents that we've tried to ignore. And I get it. Life goes on, right? Life goes on. We've got other pressures in life. We've got other things that we want to focus on. But if you're going to jump on this bandwagon, then jump on the others. And you don't necessarily need to be out there protesting in public. It can start by a conversation at home. Who's the next person who walks into your home? How do they talk about this? What comments do they make? Flippant or forecasted? What are those conversations? And how can you navigate that conversation to a conversation of awareness? And listen, we're not all going to agree. There's me and a lot of people who don't agree about a lot of things. I'm sure there's some people who are going to listen to this and go, Vic, you're talking rubbish. That's okay. It's my rubbish. It's my truth. And I'm going to stand by it. But as a leader, as someone who helps people, I'm not just helping you physically. I'm not just helping you strategically. I'm helping you emotionally too. And we all deserve to have an ancestry that we are proud of and that we can continue. It's so funny. There's actually a video going around that says when we die, people probably remember our names maybe for a couple of decades, and then after that, our grandchildren or great-grandchildren or great-great-grandchildren don't remember us. And then you try and figure out, why were you fighting? Why were you stressing out about certain things? If we do get remembered, especially in this age of technology, I want it to be a memory of pride rather than a memory of the knock-on effect of riots and conflict and anger. And realize that majority of Black people, and my dad used to say this to me, My dad used to say, you have to work so much harder than the next person. You have to. Because it doesn't matter how polished my accent is. In a lot of circumstances, people will see the color first and then make a decision. And I've seen it happen to a lot of people that I care about, that I love, who I know are very good at what they do, but they get judged about that. Like I say, I've not experienced a lot of it, but it doesn't mean that just because I've not experienced it, that it doesn't happen. So what's the conversation that you're going to champion next? And I know there's a lot of conversations out there. This isn't the only one. But right now, this is what's happening. And I just want to put it out there. So a very different mini podcast for you. But I'm putting it out there. Let me know your thoughts. Reach out. I'm intrigued. I want to know what you're thinking. But until next time, I'll speak to you soon. Have a great, great day. Sending you lots of love. Take care. Bye.